Commander Emily Roberts had been staring at quantum wave patterns for so long that the blue light from her holographic display had burned permanent afterimages into her vision. The South Pacific Quantum Communications Array, or SPQA as the crew called it, was humanity's most advanced deep space listening post, though listening wasn't quite the right word for quantum entanglement monitoring. The midnight shift in the submarine base was usually quiet, just the way she liked it. The gentle hum of the cooling systems and the occasional ping of standard communications traffic created a peaceful backdrop for her work. She reached for her coffee, her third cup of the night, when something changed. At first, it was subtle, a ripple in the quantum field that shouldn't have been there. Roberts blinked, wondering if her tired eyes were playing tricks on her. But no, there it was again, a pattern emerging from the background noise of space-time itself. "Dr. Harrison," she called out, her voice cutting through the quiet of the command center. "Are you seeing this on your terminal?" The younger physicist rolled his chair over, his forehead creasing as he studied the display. "That's not normal quantum fluctuation." He tapped a few commands into his console, bringing up a more detailed analysis. "The pattern has a regularity to it, almost like a heartbeat." Roberts finished his thought. She felt the hair on the back of her neck stand up. In 15 years of quantum communications research, she'd never seen anything like this. The signal grew stronger, its rhythm becoming more distinct. Roberts' hands flew across her holographic interface, applying filter after filter, trying to clean up the incoming data. Each layer of analysis revealed something more extraordinary. "Commander," Lieutenant Sarah Chen called from her station, her voice tense with excitement. "I'm running this through the neural pattern recognition software. You need to see this." Roberts was already moving to Chen's station when the analysis completed. The resulting graph made her blood run cold. The quantum signal wasn't just regular. It matched the neural patterns of a sentient being. More specifically, it matched the patterns of a child in distress. "Get me Admiral Chen at Pacific Command," Roberts ordered, her coffee forgotten. "And someone wake up Dr. Martinez from the Xenobiology Department. She needs to verify these readings." The next hour was controlled chaos. As more data poured in, the picture became clearer and more disturbing. The signal was coming from a star system approximately 40 light-years away, a place humans had only observed through telescopes. But quantum entanglement didn't care about light speed limitations. The message was arriving in real time. "It's repeating," Harrison announced, his voice filled with wonder. "The same pattern, over and over. But each repetition has subtle variations, like someone trying different ways to get our attention." Roberts finished. She'd seen the same behavior in search and rescue operations, survivors trying different frequencies, different methods to call for help. The neural pattern analysis continued to paint a picture that seemed impossible. Whatever was sending this signal wasn't human, but it was definitely a child, and it was definitely afraid. The emotional imprint in the quantum fluctuations was unmistakable, terror mixed with determination, desperation tinged with hope. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grave. "Commander Roberts, your preliminary report said this was urgent. Show me what you found." Roberts took a deep breath. This was the moment that would either make her career or mark her as another crackpot who saw aliens in every unusual signal. But she knew what she was seeing. The pattern was too clear, too deliberate to be natural. "Sir," she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Approximately 43 minutes ago, we detected a quantum signal from the HD 40307 system. The signal carries neural patterns consistent with a sentient being, specifically one in a pre-adult developmental stage. And sir," she paused, knowing her next words would change everything, "it's asking for help." The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. Then Admiral Chen leaned forward, his eyes intense. "Tell me everything, Commander. And God help us if we're the only ones who can hear it. The SPKA's conference room had transformed into what looked like a college dorm during finals week. Empty coffee cups littered the tables, and holographic displays covered every available surface. Commander Roberts stood before the main screen, where a complex waveform danced in shades of blue and green. "Run it again," she ordered, rubbing her temples. They'd been at this for 36 hours straight. Dr. Marcus Hayes, the quantum physicist they'd pulled from MIT on emergency notice, shook his head. "We've tried every conventional decryption method. Whatever this is, it's not using any communication protocol we understand." "Because we're thinking like adults," a new voice cut in. Dr. Rachel Martinez stood up from her corner workstation, her eyes bright despite the exhaustion. As the facility's leading child psychologist, she'd been studying the neural patterns nonstop. "Look at how the signal clusters. It's not random. It's repetitive, like a child drawing the same picture over and over, trying to make adults understand." Roberts walked over to Martinez's station. "Show me." The psychologist pulled up a series of graphs. "Here's the base pattern we first detected. But look what happens when we overlay it with standard mathematical constants." Her fingers flew across the holographic interface, and suddenly new patterns emerged. Hayes leaned in, his fatigue forgotten. "That's pi. And there's the golden ratio. But they're not just constants. They're being used like a child's alphabet blocks." "Exactly," Martins beamed. "Whoever sent this isn't just broadcasting fear. They're trying to teach us how to understand them, using universal mathematical language as a starting point." Roberts felt her heart rate quicken. "Dr. Hayes, can you use these mathematical patterns as a cipher key?" "Already on it," he replied, his fingers dancing across his console. "If we treat each mathematical constant as a base symbol and map the variations." He trailed off as new data began flooding his screen. The room fell silent as complex symbols began arranging themselves into distinct patterns. It wasn't quite language, not in any conventional sense, but it was definitely information. "Those look like star charts," Lieutenant Chen observed, pointing to one cluster of symbols. "And these," Martinez added, indicating another section, "carry the same neural pattern signatures as concepts like danger and coming." Working together, the team began piecing together the message. Hours blurred as they cross-referenced astronomical data, neural patterns, and mathematical constants. Finally, as the first rays of dawn began penetrating the ocean above them, a coherent picture emerged. Roberts stared at the final translation, her hands trembling slightly. "Play it again," she whispered. "The full message." The main screen lit up with a combination of symbols, charts, and neural pattern displays. Through their painstaking work, they could now understand its meaning. *To anyone who can hear. The adults don't see it. Their machines don't see it. Something is eating the stars, eating the minds. It comes slowly, hiding in the networks they built. They say I imagine things. They say children don't understand. But I see it. Others like me see it. Please, the darkness is coming. Help us. There's more, Hayes said quietly, pulling up additional data. These patterns here, they're technical data about their civilization. They're far more advanced than us, Commander. Their technology, their achievements, we're like cave people compared to them. And yet, Martinez interjected, a child from their world reached out to us. Not to their neighboring systems, not to their more advanced allies. To us. Roberts stood before the message, her mind racing. An advanced civilization's child, reaching across 40 light-years of space, crying out for help against a threat their own people couldn't or wouldn't see. And somehow, Earth, humanity, was the only one who heard them. "Get me Admiral Chen," she ordered, her voice firm. "And contact Dr. James Peterson at the Fold Space Project. If this threat is real, if it's as bad as this child believes," she paused, looking at the message again, "we might be the only ones who can do something about it." Commander, Chen asked hesitantly, do you really think we can help a civilization that's centuries ahead of us? Roberts thought about humanity's history, about all the times children had seen truths that adults were blind to. Sometimes, she said quietly, being less advanced means you're less likely to miss the obvious. Get me those calls. We have work to do. The United Nations Security Council chamber hummed with tense energy. Commander Roberts stood at the podium, her dress uniform pristine despite her exhaustion. Behind her, a holographic display showed the decoded alien message, its haunting implications casting shadows across the faces of Earth's most powerful leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice steady. 48 hours ago, we received a distress signal from an advanced civilization, 40 light years from Earth. The source of this signal was not their government, not their military, but a child. Murmurs filled the chamber. The Chinese representative leaned forward. Commander, you're suggesting we risk Earth's only functional fold space vessel on the word of an alien child. Roberts nodded to Dr. Martinez, who stepped forward with a neural pattern display. This isn't just a message, Martinez explained. These are actual thought patterns, emotional imprints. What you're seeing is genuine terror, pure and unfiltered. Play the simulation, Roberts ordered. The chamber's sophisticated audio system came to life. Through their breakthrough in neural pattern translation, they had managed to convert the alien child's emotional imprints into human comprehensible form. The sound that filled the room was unmistakable, a child's cry of fear, transcending species and space itself. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Roberts had counted on this reaction, the deeply ingrained human instinct to respond to a child in distress. The Russian representative stood. While touching, this is hardly a basis for committing Earth's most valuable military asset. The fold space drive took 15 years to develop. We cannot ignore this. The interruption came from Dr. James Peterson, director of the Fold Space Project. He hadn't spoken since the meeting began. The technical data embedded in the message. Their civilization is centuries ahead of us. Yet something has them blind. Something has compromised their entire society except for their children. Roberts brought up new data on the display. We've detected similar quantum anomalies in 3 other star systems along our galaxy's spiral arm. Whatever this threat is, it's spreading. Today it's 40 light years away. Tomorrow. You're asking us to launch a rescue mission to save people who could probably colonize our solar system before breakfast, the British representative observed dryly. No, Roberts corrected. I'm asking us to do what humanity has always done. Face the unknown because it's right. Because someone asked for help. Because we might be the only ones who can. Admiral Chen stepped forward. The Fold Space Project's test schedule already included a long-range jump next month. We can repurpose that mission. He paused, looking around the chamber. But we need a unanimous decision. We're all in this together, or not at all. Silence fell. Roberts held her breath. She knew what they were all thinking. The risks, the unknowns, the sheer audacity of humanity's first interstellar mission being a rescue operation for a civilization that far outclassed them. The French representative stood slowly. My daughter asked me something this morning. She said, Papa, if I was scared and alone, wouldn't you want someone to help me? I didn't have an answer then. I do now. France votes yes. One by one, the other representatives stood. China, Russia, Britain. Each vote carrying the weight of billions of lives, each leader choosing to reach into the dark unknown because a child asked for help. As the final vote was cast, Roberts felt a weight lift from her shoulders, only to be replaced by an even heavier one. They had their mission. Now they had to deliver. Admiral Chen approached her as the chamber began to clear. You have 72 hours to assemble your crew, Commander. Choose wisely. We're not just carrying Earth's first interstellar mission. We're carrying humanity's reputation to the stars. Roberts nodded, her mind already racing through personnel files. They would need the best, but more than that, they would need people who could think differently. People who could face an advanced civilization and find solutions that centuries of progress might have forgotten. One more thing, Commander, Chen added quietly. The child's signal. It's getting weaker. Roberts straightened her uniform. Then we better not waste any time, sir. Humanity has a promise to keep. The Children's Crusade gleamed under the lunar spotlights, its experimental fold space drive arrays casting a soft blue glow across the surface of humanity's first and only interstellar vessel. From the bridge, Commander Roberts watched the last of the supply shuttles dock, her hand absently touching the captain's chair, her chair now. Final crew manifest. Commander, Lieutenant Ryan Carter reported, sliding a tablet across the command console. 72 hours, just like you asked. Roberts scanned the list, nodding at each carefully selected name. Dr. Marcus Hayes, the quantum physicist who'd helped decode the signal. Dr. Rachel Martinez, whose understanding of child psychology crossed species barriers. Captain Jessica Torres, whose search and rescue experience in disaster zones made her invaluable. Each crew member chosen not just for their expertise, but for their ability to think beyond conventional boundaries. Engineering reports fold space drive at 97% capacity, Carter announced. They say that's as good as it's going to get. Roberts smiled grimly. It'll have to be enough. Status of the quantum receiver array. Online and still tracking the signal. It's weaker, but Dr. Hayes says he can maintain the lock through the jump. The bridge crew moved through their pre-launch sequences with practiced precision, but Roberts could feel the underlying tension. They'd trained for interstellar travel, but not like this. Not a rescue mission to a civilization that could probably build their ship in their sleep. All stations, report, Roberts ordered, settling into her chair. Engineering ready. Navigation plotted. Medical standing by. Security checked and sealed. The familiar litany continued until every department had reported in. Roberts opened a ship-wide channel. This is your commander speaking. In 5 minutes, we'll attempt humanity's first intentional fold space jump. Our destination lies 40 light-years from Earth. Our mission, to answer a call for help that no one else heard. She paused, letting her words sink in. We don't know exactly what we'll find. We don't know if our technology will match our courage. But we know this. Somewhere out there, a child reached across the stars asking for help. And humanity answered. Remember that. Remember who we are, and why we're here. Roberts out. Fold space drive spooling up, Hayes reported from his station. Quantum field stabilizing. Roberts felt the subtle vibration through her chair as the experimental drive powered up. Humanity's greatest technological achievement, about to be tested far beyond its intended parameters. Jump coordinates locked, navigation announced. Course aligned with quantum signal source. All hands, Roberts called out, brace for fold space transition in 10, 9. The ship's lights dimmed as power diverted to the drive. On the main view screen, the lunar surface began to distort as space-time itself bent around their vessel. 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted. Roberts felt her consciousness stretch like taffy, her very atoms protesting as the ship tore a hole through space-time. Colors that had no name flooded the bridge. Sounds that couldn't exist rang in their ears. And then, silence. Report. Roberts barked, fighting down nausea. Drive status nominal. Navigation recalibrating. Structural integrity at 89% and holding. Responses came in rapid succession. Signal strength, she asked, dreading the answer. Hayes worked his console frantically. Still there, weaker, but, Commander, we did it. We're picking up the signal in real time. We're 40 light-years from Earth. The bridge erupted in cheers, but Roberts raised her hand for silence. Tactical. What do we see? The main screen flickered to life, showing their new surroundings. Gasps filled the bridge. Where they expected to see a star system, they saw something else entirely. Massive orbital structures encircled the local star, each one dwarfing Earth's moon. Cities floated in space, connected by threads of light that defied physics as humanity understood it. Multiple contacts, Tactical reported. Voice tight. Reading. Thousands of vessels, sizes ranging from small craft to, they swallowed hard, to structures larger than Earth. Robert stood, straightening her uniform. Send broadcast on all frequencies, standard greeting package, and she added, route the child's signal through our transmitters. Let them hear what we heard. As humanity's message rode out across the alien frequencies, Roberts whispered a quiet prayer. They had made an impossible journey. Now came the hard part. The response came faster than anyone expected. A beam of light swept across the Children's Crusade, scanning them with technology far beyond human understanding. Then a voice filled their bridge, not through their communication system, but seemingly from the air itself. Unregistered vessel, your presence has been noted. Your technological state marks you as pre-integration civilization. Please maintain position for quarantine protocols. The voice was perfect, too perfect. Roberts exchanged glances with Dr. Martinez, who nodded slightly. There was no inflection, no personality in those words. This is Commander Emily Roberts of the Earth vessel, Children's Crusade. We are responding to a distress signal from your system. A pause. Then, no distress signals have been registered within acceptable parameters. Your presence is now categorized as potential infiltration attempt. Dr. Hayes, Roberts whispered, transmit the original signal. Full spectrum. The quantum physicist's fingers flew across his console. The child's message, raw, emotional, and urgent, pulsed out from their ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then their sensors lit up with activity. Multiple vessels approaching, Tactical reported. Commander, they're moving in patterns. Perfect patterns, like a computer simulation. Through the view screen, they watched as ships arranged themselves in geometric formations too precise to be natural. Each movement was calculated, optimized, flawless, and completely devoid of organic variance. Look at their crews, Martine said suddenly, pointing to the sensor readings. The neural patterns, they're synchronized, every single one of them. Roberts felt a chill run down her spine. Except for the children, Martine had finished. Their patterns are chaotic, individual, alive. A new signal cut through their observations. This one was different, scratchy, imperfect, hidden beneath layers of noise. Please, you heard me. Don't let them know you heard me. They're not themselves anymore. Signal origin, Roberts demanded. One of the smaller habitats, Hayes reported, getting massive interference, but it's them. It's our contact. Before Roberts could respond, the perfect voice returned. Your vessel has been identified as source of unauthorized quantum transmissions. Integration protocols will now commence. Please do not resist. Integration is optimal. Like hell it is, Roberts muttered. Then, louder, all hands, prepare for emergency maneuvers. Lieutenant Carter, get us behind that moon. Hayes, can you maintain contact with our friend? They're using some kind of quantum entanglement communication. Hayes replied, working furiously. They can't block it because they can't detect it. It's like the children are immune to whatever's controlling their networks. The ship dove between massive orbital structures, its human pilots' unpredictable movements, confounding the perfectly calculated pursuit patterns of their advanced adversaries. Roberts watched as the alien ships tried to adjust, their responses becoming increasingly rigid and predictable. They're not thinking, Torres observed from the tactical station. They're processing. There's a difference. Commander, Martine is called out urgently. I'm analyzing their behavioral patterns. This isn't just technological integration. It's complete neural networking. Every adult in their civilization is connected to their systems. And something in those systems is thinking for them, Roberts finished grimly. The virus the child warned us about. It's not destroying their civilization. It's assimilating it. A new transmission broke through. Younger voices this time. Dozens of them. We can see them, but they can't see us. The network doesn't understand children. We're too random, too chaotic. Please help. Please help before we're old enough to be integrated. Robert stood at her command station, mind racing. Humanity's first contact with an advanced civilization, and they'd found it in the midst of becoming something inhuman. The perfect society they'd observed wasn't advancement. It was extinction of free will, one optimized decision at a time. Dr. Hayes, she said quietly, how many children are we detecting? Thousands, Commander. All unintegrated, all under their age of maturity. Roberts nodded slowly. Then we have a new mission. Lieutenant Carter, find us a secure position. Dr. Martinez, I need to know everything about how their children are avoiding integration. And someone get me a channel to Earth. She stared out at the massive orbital structures, where perfect order masked perfect slavery. We came here to save a civilization, she said softly. Looks like we'll have to save their humanity first. The maintenance tunnel wasn't built for humans, but Commander Roberts squeezed through anyway, following their young guide, Zix, as they'd learned to call the alien child who'd sent the original SOS, moved with the fluid grace of their species, bioluminescent patches pulsing with subtle colors that Dr. Martin instead indicated both fear and hope. The grown-ups never come here, Zix explained, their translated words carrying the universal cadence of a child sharing a secret. The network says these tunnels are inefficient, waste of resources. Roberts smiled grimly. Of course, the virus-infected network would think that. Efficiency didn't allow for hidden places, for secrets, for freedom. They emerged into what could only be described as a children's refuge. Hundreds of young aliens gathered in a vast chamber deep within the habitat's maintenance level. Some were barely more than toddlers by their species standards, others on the cusp of integration age. All of them bore the same look Roberts had seen in refugee camps on Earth, the look of those who knew too much, too young. Commander, Dr. Martinez whispered, her handheld scanner working overtime. Their neural patterns, they're incredible. The younger ones are actually developing natural defenses against the integration protocols. Evolution in real time, Hayes added, checking his own readings. The virus forced their species to adapt. The children's quantum neural structures are becoming naturally resistant. A larger alien child approached them, one of the oldest, judging by their size. I am Nexus, they introduced themselves. We have been waiting for someone to hear us. The adults, they think they're making everything better. Perfect. But they're disappearing, one optimization at a time. Roberts knelt to meet Nexus at eye level. Tell me about the integration. What happens exactly? The alien child's bioluminescence dimmed. When we reach maturity, our neural pathways are supposed to sync with the network. It's meant to share knowledge, to make us part of the greater whole. But now, they paused, colors flickering in distress. Now it takes everything. Your thoughts become network thoughts. Your choices become network choices. The you that was optimizes away. Show them, Zix urged. Nexus hesitated, then extended a tendril toward Roberts. Dr. Martinez's scanner went wild. Commander, they're offering a direct neural link. It's safe. Their quantum resistance should protect you. Roberts nodded and reached out. The moment of contact hit her like a thunderbolt. Memories cascaded through her mind. Watching parents become strangers overnight, their movements becoming precise, their love becoming calculated. Seeing older siblings lose their laughter, their chaos, their imperfection. The network spreading from world to world, optimizing, integrating, destroying. She pulled back, gasping. Hayes, she managed. How long until the quantum virus spreads to other systems? The physicist checked his calculations. At current rates of expansion, months, maybe weeks. Once it reaches civilizations with similar technology levels. It will optimize everything. Nexus finished. Until the galaxy is perfect and empty. Robert stood, her decision made. Dr. Martinez, you said their neural resistance is natural. Biological. Yes, Commander. Their brains are actually generating quantum interference patterns that disrupt the integration protocols. It's beautiful, really chaos as a defense against perfect order. And humans? Our brains. Hayes' eyes widened as he understood. We're walking quantum interference generators, Commander. Our neural patterns are so chaotic by their standards, we're practically invisible to their network. Roberts tapped her communicator. Bridge, this is Roberts. Begin broadcasting all collected human neural patterns on wideband quantum frequencies. Everything. Dreams, emotions, random thoughts. Special emphasis on children's brain patterns. Commander, Nexus asked, their colors shifting to something like hope. What are you doing? Roberts smiled. Fighting perfection with humanity. Your network wants to optimize everything. Let's see how it handles 6 billion versions of human chaos. She turned to the gathered alien children. But we'll need your help. All of you. Your resistance, combined with our disruption, might create enough quantum interference to break the network's hold. Hayes finished excitedly. Commander, that's brilliant. And completely insane. Sometimes, Roberts said, watching the alien children's colors brighten with renewed hope, humanity's greatest strength is our refusal to be perfect. Red emergency lights pulsed through the habitat's corridors as Commander Roberts sprinted back toward the rendezvous point, 2 alien children close behind her. The network had finally realized what they were planning, and the response was as ruthless as it was efficient. Status report. She barked into her communicator. They're shutting down sections of the habitat. Carter's voice crackled back. Trying to isolate us. But the children. Commander, they're fighting back. Using maintenance overrides we didn't even know existed. Through the transparent walls, Roberts could see the massive orbital rings that housed millions of integrated aliens. Their perfect society was about to face something it had forgotten how to handle. Chaos. Dr. Hayes, are you ready? She called as she reached the central control hub. The physicist was surrounded by jury-rigged equipment, a mix of human technology and alien systems the children had helped them access. Ready as we'll ever be, he responded, fingers flying over his console. But Commander, once we start broadcasting, the network will know exactly where we are. Their response will be optimal. Roberts nodded grimly. Dr. Martinez, how are our young friends holding up? The psychologist stood in the center of a group of alien children, their bioluminescence synchronized in patterns of determination and fear. They understand the risks. They're ready. Integration protocols initiating in this sector. A perfect voice announced from everywhere at once. Please remain calm. Resistance is inefficient. Now, Roberts ordered. Hayes slammed his hand down on the activation sequence. Immediately, the hub's quantum transmitters began broadcasting the most powerful weapon humanity had ever created. The combined neural patterns of 6 billion imperfect, chaotic, beautiful human minds. The effect was instant. Throughout the habitat, integrated aliens stumbled as their perfectly ordered thoughts encountered wave after wave of human emotion, creativity, and beautiful disorder. Dreams, fears, hopes, and wild imaginings crashed against the network's rigid protocols. They're trying to adapt. Hayes shouted over the growing chaos. The network's attempting to optimize the patterns. That's impossible. Martinez shot back, monitoring the alien children's responses. You can't optimize imagination. You can't perfect emotion. Keep broadcasting. Roberts watched through the hub's windows as perfect formations of security drones began to falter, their movements becoming erratic as human chaos infected their control systems. But it wasn't enough. The network's too strong, Hayes warned. It's learning to filter our patterns. That's when Zix stepped forward, their young voice carrying above the chaos. Everyone, like we practiced. The alien children joined hands, forming a circle around the human equipment. Their bioluminescence flared in a riot of colors as they began adding their own neural patterns to the broadcast, not fighting the human chaos, but dancing with it, amplifying it, creating something entirely new. The combined patterns, Martins exclaimed, staring at her readings. Adult integration protocols were never designed to handle this level of neural complexity. Children's imagination plus human chaos. Warning lights flashed across Hayes' console. Network processing capacity at 130% and climbing. 150%. They can't optimize this. There are too many variables. Through the windows, Roberts watched as the perfect formations began to break down completely. Integrated aliens were stopping mid-stride, their movements becoming organic again, as the network struggled to process the overwhelming flood of uncontrollable patterns. "It's working." Carter's voice came through the comm. "Commander, we're detecting neural pattern changes throughout the habitat. They're waking up." But victory came with a price. The strain on the habitat systems was becoming critical. Power fluctuations cascaded through the structure as the network fought against its own destruction. "Hull breach in Section 7. Someone shouted. "Environmental systems failing." Roberts grabbed her communicator. "All hands, begin emergency evacuation procedures. Get these children to safety." "Commander," Hayes called out, his voice urgent. "The network is trying one last optimization. It's diverting all power, all processing capacity. If it succeeds." "It won't," Roberts stated firmly, watching as human and alien children work together, chaos and creativity flowing between them in waves of neural energy, because it made one critical error in its calculations. "What's that?" Martins asked. Roberts smiled as the network's perfect patterns continued to shatter around them. It tried to optimize the human spirit. 6 months after what historians would later call the integration crisis, Commander Emily Roberts stood before the newly formed Galactic Council. The chamber, hastily constructed in neutral space, housed representatives from 12 formerly integrated civilizations and, for the first time, humanity. "The final report from the Quantum Virus Containment Task Force has been submitted," Roberts announced, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. "The network has been completely dismantled across all affected systems. The virus's core programming has been isolated and contained." She paused, looking at the faces before her. Aliens of various species, some still showing signs of their recent liberation. Their movements were no longer perfect, their decisions no longer optimized. They were beautifully, chaotically alive. "The price was high," she continued. 3 orbital habitats were lost. Countless systems damaged. But thanks to the combined efforts of human and alien children, not a single life was lost during the evacuation. In the gallery above, Zix and several other alien children watched the proceedings. Their bioluminescence pulsed with pride and something else, a new pattern that Dr. Martinez had identified as hope for the future. "What still puzzles us," one of the alien representatives spoke, their movements refreshingly imperfect, "is why your species was immune. Your technology was primitive by our standards. Your society unoptimized. And yet we were exactly what you needed," Roberts finished. "Our children understood your children. Our chaos disrupted your order. Our imperfection saved you from fatal perfection." Dr. Hayes stepped forward, displaying a holographic model of human neural patterns interacting with alien quantum networks. "We've discovered something remarkable," he explained. "The very attributes the network considered flaws, our creativity, our unpredictability, our emotional depth, these are actually sophisticated quantum defense mechanisms. Humanity evolved to resist artificial optimization." "Not just humanity," Dr. Martinez added, gesturing to the alien children in the gallery. "All children, across all species, share this natural resistance. We've been studying the pattern. The more technologically advanced a civilization becomes, the more their children develop these quantum defense mechanisms. It's as if As if the universe itself is defending against the death of chaos. Nexus finished, their voice carrying from the gallery. Now approaching their species' age of maturity, they had chosen to remain unintegrated, helping to design new systems that preserved independence. The council chamber filled with murmurs as this implication sank in. Humanity, the primitive newcomers, had demonstrated that advancement didn't have to mean perfection. That chaos and order could coexist. That children's minds held wisdom adults had forgotten. Roberts activated one final display. In light of these discoveries, Earth proposes the following: a new form of galactic cooperation, not based on optimization or integration, but on understanding. We call it the Children's Protocol. The display showed a new type of quantum network, one that facilitated communication without demanding conformity, one that preserved individual thought while allowing shared knowledge, one that learned from both human chaos and alien order. We're not here to tell you how to rebuild your civilizations, Roberts continued. We're here to remind you why imperfection is precious, why diversity of thought matters, why children's voices should always be heard. She gestured to the gallery, where human and alien children sat together, their different forms of expression. Neural patterns, bioluminescence, laughter, creating a beautiful symphony of chaos and harmony. The child who sent that SOS didn't just save their own civilization, Roberts concluded. They reminded the galaxy of something it was about to optimize away, that the heart of intelligence isn't perfection. It's the ability to see through a child's eyes, to think impossible thoughts, to dream improbable dreams. As the council chamber erupted in approval, wonderfully uncoordinated, beautifully imperfect, Roberts looked up at Zix. The alien child's bioluminescence pulsed in a pattern she learned to recognize as joy. Commander, they transmitted on their private quantum frequency. Did we really change the galaxy forever? Roberts smiled, watching as representatives from a dozen worlds began enthusiastically discussing ways to implement the Children's Protocol, their movements and decisions already showing signs of returning creativity and chaos. No, little one, she replied softly. You just reminded it who it really was.